Hello everyone and welcome. It's a freshly groomed Black Shadow here with the big news we've been waiting for quite a little while now, and that is that Dune Digital is finally getting its ranked system. This news broke late last night. I wasn't able to cover it, so I'm doing it instead this afternoon. Also coupled with the fact that it is now coming out for iOS and other platforms, the Rise of X DLC, that is, which people have been on for a while, and I had been speculating that given the delay to getting this system out was kind of originally planned for last month, had a feeling they were going to roll it all into one big release patch, and that's exactly what's going on here. I will say, however, before we get into the details of this, that I was a little bit surprised reading this in a way, and there's been some reactions that have been a little curious. I think for a lot of us as well, there's kind of an expectation of how we've done our rank systems on the TTS Club Discord, and obviously with Cheesable Systems, for Dune XMO as well as Dune Uprising, and there's kind of an interesting kind of hybridization of a few different ideas, some of which I get, and some of which has raised some eyebrows, but I don't think it's like panic stage or anything like that. So let's go have a little look at this. So a link to the news article will be in the video description below, but let's have a look at this. Again, first of all, the other big news here, as noted here, is that Wednesday patch release Rise of X for phones, tablets, and Xbox, which is good. Again, people have been wanting this for quite a while. Rise of X has been out for about a month or so at this point, and had been caught up in the delays. I had speculated that I think their resources for Dune Digital had got a little bit ported over to the release of Clank Digital, and I think that they were prioritizing getting that done, which I think makes total sense, so this got, unfortunately, pushed back ever so slightly. Not a big deal. Anyways, ranked play for 4-player board games has some special considerations relative to more traditional 2-player games. You're damn right, I can attest to this. We're excited about this initial approach and looking forward to player feedback to help guide iteration and ongoing development. So this is kind of Direwolf's first real crack at something a bit like this. There's been a couple of little things dotted around here and there as well, and obviously I've talked about this in a previous update video for the design diaries. Obviously I talked about the Game of Thrones digital board game, which Dune Digital did do, or Dune Digital? Direwolf Digital, I should say. However, the whole ranking stuff was not done by them. That was done by like Asmodee, I think it was, or something like that. So this is kind of unusual territory for them. Also, like a lot of things, whenever you do any kind of rating or elo system for something that is not just 1v1, it gets very, very complicated very quickly, and it does become there is some philosophical questions about how you want to operate the system, because there is no set way of doing it, which this will talk about very shortly. So I can appreciate that, and there has definitely been some feedback being sent across already. So this is how it's going to work, first of all. If you want to go ahead and play this, you will need the Rise of X DLC, first of all, by the way. This is, I guess, slightly disappointing to folks who only have the base game. You won't be able to get involved in this. The games are going to be base game Rise of X, but I think that's for two reasons. First off, I think there's probably a quiet admission that Dune Imperium is just a better game overall if you've got the Rise of X DLC added to the game, and it does make it better. I say, when it came out, it was nominated Best Expansion of the Year by BGG, and that's got to count for something, right? So I think there is probably a quiet admission that the game is a bit sharper and a bit more suited for this sort of thing with that DLC, which I would agree with. The other thing as well is I'm not entirely sure they know how many people are going to do this. And I'm not sure I entirely know how many people are going to be having a crack at this either. It's a little hard to know. And I think that the reason they're doing it this way as well is that when you do this, there's two different ways of operating these systems. Like we do with TTS Club, what you do is if you want to play a game, you go to TTS Club, you post an LFG, you say, I want to play Dune Imperium so-and-so ranked. And then 3 people say, yes, thumbs up to that. You go into the game, you play it, and rock and roll, and that's totally fine. It's good for ease of access, and it's good for just getting games done, but the problem with that is that there is absolutely no limitation on who can and can't join that lobby, basically, and it can lead to some very uneven experiences, which I think a lot of us can attest to. What Digital here has done is gone the other way of doing it, which is to focus on having more tighter matches by kind of getting people in with similar ratings, but that means that there's less games going overall. Because what you do is they've got a queue that will open up every hour. And every hour there will be ranked games getting played. There will be a special queue which you join, I think it's like 5 minutes or so before the queue opens, or the actual games start. Everyone who wants to play joins into it, and then at the top of the hour, the system will say, okay, look at all the ratings, there are all the players that are in there, band them together as best as you can into tight games, and then go ahead and play the match. Now, if you join the system, you will get a game guaranteed. So even if it's not a multiple of 4, it might mean that there's 1 or 2 free-player games that are amongst all of that, which I think is fine. I imagine you'll find that those free-player games will be at the bottom end of the ratings. I would suspect they want to keep the 4-player integrity to the top end. I think that would be the correct way of doing that. And I think that's more important to get. You don't want to be sitting in a queue waiting for this and say, oh, you random didn't get into a lobby of 4. Tough luck, try again in an hour. That would be terrible. So I think this has got to be the way to do it, even though, of course, free-player games are quite different to 4. It's something that you're just going to have to get slightly adjusted to, and you might end up in one of those occasionally. I think the fact that the games are going to be staggered to happen every hour is what they probably think they need to do, and I get that, but it does kind of put a bit of weird pressure on some games. If players are desperate to get into another match, I think there is a potential where, like, if your game goes 8 or 9 rounds sort of thing, you could well go beyond the hour and miss the cutoff for the next ranked game. And I think that is a bit of a concern. If you want to get in lots of games, you might find that people, if like they're well behind and it's like sort of 52, 53 minutes past the hour, you might find a couple people will just say, I'm going to drop out because I'm not going to get anything anyways. And then so they can go and matchmake in the next hour's worth of games. You could debate whether that's a good thing or not. It's probably marginally better than what we've got anyways, with a lot of the dropouts happening currently. But yeah, there are some weaknesses, I think, to this system. I don't know how big a deal those will be. We'll kind of work out as we go, but I think this should definitely be noted. Now, the next thing to cover is, what is your rating going to be? How are they going to do this? I think this is actually a really, really fascinating way they're doing this, and it's actually very similar to what Cheesebook does currently with the Dune Uprising rank system. And I believe, if memory serves correctly, that we've had this discussion before with Paul Denon, and he has talked about doing a system kind of this sort of style as well. So, in rank play, you will earn stars. You will get 2 for finishing first, 1 for finishing second. That will help you rank up through the 5 tiers, bronze to master. So you're going to have bronze, silver, gold, something beyond that. I've seen diamond thrown around. It could be platinum. I don't know. And then your top rank is going to be master. At ranks gold and above, if you finish last or if you quit the game early, you do D-pip and you lose a star. So it's important to fight for a finish. I think this is a really good system. Couple of things to note about this. First of all, I think staggering out the rewards like this, I think is the correct way of doing this. I know there are some folks who feel that with these sort of systems, you should just reward whoever wins it and, you know, screw everyone else, basically. But I do not believe that that is a very incentivizing system for general players, and that's what you've got to ultimately be trying to focus for, and I think this is the correct way of doing it. You know, if you play a game for like an hour or so doing this, and you play really well, don't think you could do much wrong, and you lose to a bunch of endgame intrigues, you get pipped out by like Solari tiebreak, and you get nothing for your awards, and then the game went long, so you miss the next ranked cutoff, you got to wait an hour for your next game. Like, that sucks, and that is not going to be a fun experience for anyone, I don't really think. So I think staggering out like this is good. Having 2 for winning and having something for second place as a consolation, I think is totally... to me, it's how I would do it. Also, I think the fact that there's no penalty for coming last for the first couple of ranks, I also like as well. It gives that kind of safety net. It's very reminiscent to the pip system for Dead by Daylight, which is a game that I used to play a fair bit as well, where you would gain pips as you play well in a game. You know, you get 1 or 2 pips depending on how well you do, but you couldn't D-pip until you were like a few ranks or so into the game. You were given the safety pip, it was known as, and I just think that that's, generally speaking, a better system for people that don't get time to play a whole lot. It takes a little bit of that edge off, a little bit of the pressure, you know, so they don't have to worry about coming last. and actually losing stars. I think this is definitely the way that I would do it. The one thing I would say, though, is that it also protects you if you quit the game early, unless you're at gold or above. That I'm not so sure about. I think if someone is going to quit, I don't think they should kind of get any kind of protection, whatever rank they are. If they're just going to quit, I think they should be penalized regardless of what rank they are, truthfully. Just make them lose that start, make them play it out. Maybe it's a little bit tough, perhaps, but I think that, like, it means that in the silver and bronze ranks, playing a ranked game is going to be basically the same, more or less, as just playing a general game. And if people are going to quit because they try to high roll and they miss, people will quit because they're like, oh, I'll just play another game later on. They'll go away. They'll do something else on the PC for like 30 minutes and rock and roll. So I do think maybe they should just have that penalty regardless of what rank you are. But I think your mileage can vary about that, and I think both ways looking at this are totally acceptable. But you will progressively need more stars to rank up, which is fine. Losing stars will not cause you to lose a rank. Yeah, so if you get to you squeak into the gold rank, and then you come last, you won't deep back down to silver. Your gold rank will be maintained, which again I think is good, and I think the best way to do this. However, you will also notice, you'll be like, well, hold on a sec, ELO, numbers, where's all this? Well, this is the thing. New season kicks off every 30 days with a fresh chance to make your mark as one of the top 100 players on the Master Leaderboard. So, the way it works is that once you accumulate the stars, and once you get to the Master rank, the top rank, that's when there's an ELO rating. Now, what I suspect is going on is your ELO rating is actually being calculated the whole time that you're playing, but it won't actually be publicly visible until you hit the top rank, which is the exact same thing that Cheeseball does in his Dune Uprising system. And I do think that it's probably the best way to do it as well. If you're just playing sort of semi-casually, you don't have a ton of time to play over the course of a month, like, it's nice to see numbers, but it's not really that important to you. It's more important to you to feel like you just make the progress and getting to the next banding of ranking. But if you have the time and the capacity to just play absolutely bucket tons, then yeah, obviously this is going to be a bit more relevant to you, and I think that that's totally fine. You don't need to have a load of these fitting around where the ratings, like, someone could have, like, 1,500 ELO, but they've played, like, 6 games total, and they just happen to win all 6 games, sort of thing. It's high opposition. Like, that doesn't really mean a whole lot. So I think banning this to the top rank is good, and it gives people that hit that top rank something to continue to go for, which I think makes sense. Within each new season, the leaderboard resets, and all players will lose 2 ranks. So you'll go from Master to Gold or Gold to Bronze. You'll go down 2 sets of banding. So yeah, this is something that obviously was going to, I think, happen. And I think you kind of have to do. You need to have these season resets every now and again to obviously, so people can't just, like, play a load of games, get to Master, and then just stop playing, like, oh, I'm a Master and I'm good. You have to have these resets. 30 days, however. I know a few people have looked at this and said, isn't that pretty quick? And I think I'm kind of in agreement. I think 30 days is very, very rapid. Again, going back to Dead by Daylight, for example, Dead by Daylight is not too dissimilar in regards to its season resets timing-wise, but a game of Dead by Daylight takes maybe 15 minutes on average. Dune Imperium, let's say it's an hourly game, and you might have a game that goes beyond that, so you miss out on one of those matches. You got to wait an hour to get to the next one. As such, I think 30 days is probably too quick. But it's a difficult one because you don't really know where to judge it. You've not really done anything like this before. 30 days might be a lot for some people who have the time to play tons, and that's what you want to do. But, I mean, bear in mind, like, if we go back up top here, so from gold to whatever's beyond that, you need 7 stars. So that means you've got to win 3 games and come second in another and never come last. And the odds are you're not going to do that in 3 games. To get from gold to whatever's beyond that, like, that could legitimately just take you just a straight day. You know, you might have a bit of a bad run, couple of unlucky games. You know, you get, like, you keep getting pipped in, like, third place, not making much progress, and getting from What's Ever Beyond This to Master is going to take probably, like, 8 or 9 stars, maybe even more than that. You don't know. Could be 10 or something. So I do think that 30 days initially on a paper looks a bit quick, and I don't know that many people are actually even going to get up to Master, quite frankly, especially not in this first season. It's going to be very difficult to see how many people realistically, unless you're just jamming games and you have the ability to jam games, in which case, fine. But a lot of us don't have time to do this. You know, we've got jobs, we've got families, you know, we've got other commitments. Someone like me who does like a lot of content creation and such, and it's going to be difficult to find the time to actually play enough games to get up to here. Especially knowing that it's every month that whatever you get to, you go down 2 bannings irrespective of what you've done. So I think that maybe this is a bit too aggressive and could be done with being tuned a little bit. The other thing as well I could say with like tuning it down, bear in mind, this is only a show of the top 100. And obviously, once you get to this top 100 sort of situation, you've still got your ELO to fight for. And that is still, if people are going to play that much, they want to get onto this leaderboard, they're going to care about this. And this is going to matter to them quite a lot. So I think if you made it, just say provisionally, I don't know, 45 days or 60 days, like it takes a bit of pressure off, you know, the people that don't get a chance to play a lot to at least have a realistic chance of trying to make gold or diamond or whatever else, you know, and they can have a half a chance at that. But you know, and if people that the sickos, if they want to play absolute bucket tons against each other, but they can do. They've still got their own ELO points to fight for, and that'll never disappear. So we'll see how that goes. I think 30 days is their best guesstimate, would be my assumption, and they're not really sure. It's kind of a bit of a, we're going to try this, but I would not be surprised to see this be extended down the line. I think I would be probably suggesting that they make it at least a little bit longer, given how long it takes. I mean, if you can only play, maybe 2 games? I mean, if you had the time to play 2 games a day, you know, which is still a lot, that's still, 14 hours a week spent just playing Dune Imperium Rank, which is quite a lot of time when you think about it. You know, that is basically setting aside a whole day just playing this. That's 14 games. From bronze, you're gonna maybe get up to gold, as if you win almost every one of those games. And then, you know, that's kind of it. And then after the season ranks, you just back down when you start. Yeah, I do fear this is a bit too aggressive, but we'll see. Now, there are a couple of things to note that aren't mentioned in this release here. First of all, you will notice that there is no mention of a karma system. This was something that had been mentioned in previous design diaries. I've talked about this, and something that they were looking to get out in and around the rank play stuff. Now, you could argue there is kind of an element of karma system going on. The fact that if you do disconnect, only once you've gotten to high enough banding that you will lose a star here. And I think that's fine, I guess. But I do think some people are looking for something a bit more in-depth, because there is quite a bit of games being, players quitting out of games in the general, just LFG system for Dune Digital. It's something we come across when we stream. It's something that I know that other people do. Bludgeon comes across it. CJ comes across it. I'm sure Orski plays a bit of this. He comes across it. And it is a bit annoying to see people that will like go in, try and high roll for a big card, miss it, and then quit. You know, and that's something you do not want to encourage in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you do have the AI takeover, and the hard AI is not as bad as it used to be. It actually can be kind of solid-ish, but against like veteran experienced players, they don't really have a whole lot of a chance, and they do sometimes just do really, really strange stuff. So that's not something you want to rely upon. I don't know that they're gonna bring out a more dedicated karma system going down the line. If they did do something like they had for the Game of Thrones board game, I think that would be good. Just something that kind of sticks with you, and you know, it definitely marks you. If you start quitting games early, people will be able to see that. But the problem is, a game like this is that, and with any kind of system, is that the karma system only really matters if you're not the last person joining the game. You know, you can look at who's hosting, And you can see, okay, do they quit a lot of games? And if they do, you can choose to avoid. But if it's someone who joins the game in that 4th slot, you're never going to see what their karma is because they join the game starts immediately. So if they're the ones who tend to join into random games, try to high roll, miss, and then quit, you're not really ever going to know any difference. So I think that is a potential issue here. But it's still a step in the right direction. Again, though, I do think it should just account they're losing the start at basically all ranks, personally. The other thing that you'll note going across this is that there is no mention of asynchronous games. Indeed, we've got this image here, expansion Savfk, lead section draft, timers live. Now, I'm not entirely surprised by this. Obviously, I have played like a couple of games of async. I had a little crack in a tournament of asynchronous. It's not my style of game at all, but I do know that some people do rely on async games quite a lot, especially if you play a lot on mobile. I can definitely see the appeal of asynchronous games when you're not entirely sure when you're going to be able to take your next turn. You can kind of play it throughout the day. I think that makes total sense. But I think for a rank system, it's just not going to be particularly worth it, I don't think, for Doom Digital to have an asynchronous ranked play queue, because you can't really control how long it's going to take to get games done. Obviously, you could, in theory, play as many or as few as you want as well. And this is not trying to be a knock on people who play in asynchronous a lot here, but I think if you had, like, highly ranked asynchronous players, I don't necessarily know what that number means. Whereas if you've got live timers, like, if someone is, like, in the top 20 ranked in the world, you can say, all right, maybe they especially on the ELO system, you can say, all right, they have the time to play a lot, which is probably true to get that far. But B, they've probably also got to have some ability and skill in the game. And ultimately, with any of these systems, like, eventually, the best players do gravitate towards the top, which is why you'll never see me there. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see asynchronous not be mentioned about this. It's not impossible that there might be something they look at down the line, and I wouldn't be against them at least perhaps trying, but I just don't think it's going to work. And the problem is, if you're resetting the season every 30 days, like, how are you meant to do that over an asynchronous system? It's just not possible. I think the only way you could do asynchronous would be to have it basically be evergreen, and just have it as this is your permanent record, and it's there and it never gets reset. I think anything that's like that really long format, I just think any kind of season resetting, there's logistical problems. What do you do for ranked games that are still open when the reset happens? Do you add it in post? Do you give the ratings to the next season, in which case people could just set up a load of games on, like, the final round, wait for the next season, and then just finish them off in one go? Do you just cancel the game entirely if it's not done, in which case people are going to be wasting their time on these games? There's so many logistical problems that I don't think people necessarily think of immediately with this sort of stuff. I mean, it's something that I think that Digital are just like, one step at a time here. Maybe we'll find a way to do this later on down the line, but I would expect if they do any system, it will be an evergreen leaderboard that will never be updated as such. It will never be refreshed. Let me use my terminology correctly. But that is about it for this video. I think plenty of diving into there, a bit of interpretation and a bit of inferring on what we're going to be seeing here. Again, I'm glad that they finally got it out. Unfortunately, they've kind of picked about the worst bit they could have done on a personal way. I might, if I'm lucky, be able to do a stream tomorrow night, but if I don't, I ain't going to be able to do one until next week, kids. I am so fully booked with stuff until next Wednesday. It's kind of ridiculous. So either this Wednesday or next Wednesday, I will get a stream on Dune Digital Rank to give it a bit of a feel. And I am curious to know what you guys make of this as well, as always. Especially something like this, we've obviously been speculating on streams and such, what we think this is going to look like. There are some things I do think that might well be changed going on down the line, but I think a lot of it's going to be kind of proof in the pudding. We'll all give it a spin, give some feedback, and hopefully tell them that, yeah, you need to make the season a little bit longer. I think that'd be a fair compromise overall. Anyways, I need to get this video put together and up onto the YouTubes. So thank you much for listening. Take care of yourselves. Let me know what you think of Dune Digital if you're going to give it a spin, and how far you think you might get. And best of luck to you guys. I'm sure I'll probably see some of you around the table. Have a good one. I'll see you soon.